Greetings all, D&Disability here. As a break from what we normally do, and upon request, forgive me, I don't remember who, someone requested that I discuss painting minis or wargaming painting while blind. They had some friends or some other people that were interested in it, and they were low vision. I don't know to what degree, but one of the things I can talk about is kind of how I go through the painting process, though I will not be modeling that in full here. I'm just going to cover some of the basics. So, how do you go from a full model like this one, right, which is all in the white, this lovely Orcus figure here, to a fully completed model like this one? And the base is still a little rough on this one. I was doing some touch-up on the flames, if any of you saw my previous work with it. So I need to recoat the base on this. And I figure this will be a good excuse for me to show off some of my other painted minis here. I am by no means an expert. I don't even consider myself a good painter. But I am blind and I work within my abilities, I think, relatively well. And I hope I can just share a couple of basic techniques. So the first thing I'd like to share, you can actually see in the background here, is the kind of paints I use. I use predominantly, right, Reaper Bones paints, though Army Painter minis or whatever it's called, and some of the others, to me they're all pretty interchangeable. Any high quality miniature paint will do. And I just keep them all in there. It actually comes with a couple of these little brushes, which is nice. And I base coat all of my minis in this. Some people might, think this is overkill. I have absolutely no problems with it. I love it. And as an example of what you can do with this, just almost by itself, have a look at this guy. This guy was base coated in that flat black, and then I went over it with some touches of silver, where, say, the horns are, where the boots are. I think I did his hands as well, but I don't honestly remember. I can't see it. I did the bowl as a green verdigris to represent bronze, and then the fire here, of course, is our green flame. Those PAX fans will recognize that, right? But here, this is just a base coating of this matte black, right, with another coating of like this shiny onyx black that's in here, and an ink wash. And that's pretty much all there is to this one. One of my secrets as a mini painter is I don't do 7 layers. I might do 3 layers, right? I typically do what is called speed painting, I guess. And sometimes I get good results. And for an interior room statue, I think this one does the job. Now, all the minis I will be showing here today are metal miniatures. All right, let's look at one that is a little more complicated, one that required a few more steps, right, than just that plain black one. All right, here is one of the original AD&D style trolls. We can see that it's kind of in this, I would say beckoning position, or maybe, you'd be willing to offer it treasure or something. But this one, I love the model. These models have excellent detail. This was, of course, a base in black, a foundational level of green, a lighter level of green, a still third lighter level of green, and then I washed the whole thing, hair included, in black ink. This ink, the hair here is actually about a 50-50 mixture of basically black miniature paint and rubbing alcohol, because I wanted it to come through as a black wash, so we'd still get some of the green tones in here. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if it paid off. I can't see it, but it might show up for you guys. And then, of course, these bases are all done in the same texture black, pretty much, because when I spray these, I've already based them, and I just spray the whole thing for the sake of ease. So this one was just a few layers of green, kept simple, and as a low vision painter, right, for me it comes down to, okay, I can't see any of the details, right? I can't see any of this detail work, so I'm going to coat the whole thing. Then I coat the whole thing again, and then I coat less of it, right? I might not necessarily be able to tell what I've gotten and what I haven't, but I know that I can hit these high points here, and I can do that entirely by feel, right? I know, like I can do that part, the tops of the tops of pretty much everything, right? Got the lighter coats, and then you slather the whole thing in a washed down black ink, and you're set. For these, actually, I just used the straight ink and a very wet brush. And that came out really well for the trolls. It did not come out so well for my little hag here. She was done in browns and greens. This might get me demonetized on YouTube, I guess. I'm sorry. She is topless. But it's all very dark. The skull I did in a bone white, but once I did the wash, it immediately washed that to gray. So this just goes to show as an example that while sometimes you can get some nice rich colors, like I love the way her back and stuff looks here, and like the skin contrast with her skirt and her hair, but it doesn't always work out exactly the way we want. And of course, I don't bother doing any little bits. Like if she has a belt or whatever here, I can't see it, and I don't bother because you're actually seeing her from about this far away on a gaming surface, right? So we don't really care. Now, you saw the Efreet model in the beginning, and I'll show you one more, I think, of just about as detailed as I go. And that's going to probably be, yeah, why not? All right, so here's a pig-faced orc, right? I love these guys. I love my orcs to be pigmen, right? I like actual orcs, not what, like, modern day, green elves with fangs, right? That I'm good. I'll pass. This one was a bit of a challenge and involved a whole lot of blocking out of colors, right? Blocking out darker greens and then lighter greens. I typically would brush the tusks. I don't remember if I did them on this one. As I said before, I can't see it. All of the metal bits, like the bow. And by the way, not all of these bows historically are metal, right? We can typically do these in wood as well, and they'll look just fine DMs. So for those worried about that, don't. There's the axe here, and when it comes to doing axe bits like this, if I feel them and find them as I go, I base coat all of these metal bits in white. So I black bomb the whole thing with my spray paint over there, right? But then I do all of these metal bits, I slap a layer of white over it. And that's so I know as a painter where I need to go through with the silver because it's very high contrast. Black on white is very high contrast. We have his shield design here, which once again had a whole bunch of silver just slathered around it. As I said, I'm not a good painter, right? But at the same time, it just has to be passable for a table, right? And so from here, the mini looks just fine. Now, picking back up and looking at some of the detail work, I let the wash take care of the eyes and these little bits in the armor here, right? I brush the whole inside here with silver. I get the browns, and then I cheat. I hand this over to my loving girlfriend, and I say, hey, can you touch up any of the bits that I missed, or basically all of the detailed bits ever, right? Such as like the belt buckle there, or where his shoe connects to his leg, or as an example, the fletchings in the quiver here, right? I can feel those, right? And thankfully, this texture paint, the spray paint, does have texture to it. It actually has quite like a rough, almost sandy texture, so you know when you've covered it, because you can tell the difference. But you can't necessarily tell once you have layer after layer of paint on it. How do I handle terrain painting, right? Which is a little different. Well, I have some pieces I've made here. I'll just show you 3 of them real quick. I have a whole box of these. These are all half scale. Basically, these are some of my favorite thing from, I believe it's Hearst Arts molds. All I do is, these are all cast dental plaster, dental stone, and they all get coated in black, they all get coated in gray, and then a dark gray, and then I touch up certain bits with brown or with like a sandy kind of khaki color, and with there's like a red kind of ochre and a light, very very light gray that I then kind of coat all of these in. And then from there, right, they all get dry brushed with typically a lighter, they get overbrushed with a lighter gray, which is what helps tone down, there's some of the brown, right? That helps tone down the browns, make them not quite as loud. There's one of the lighter colored stones, right? And then once that's happened, these get washed with a mix of simply just like very thin black paint and water. I don't bother using a flow aid. I don't see much point. It's not really necessary with terrain like this. As you can see, sometimes I do the bottoms, and when I paint these, the base coat of these isn't just black paint. It's actually black paint and Mod Podge. Not quite a 50-50 mix. It's like a, I guess, 80-20 mix, something like that, 90-10. Anyway, it turns the Mod Podge black, and that's all I need. With my plaster pieces, because yes, I've actually cast these with plaster before, it does work, but you get a lot of failures. And so if you want like ruined bits, it works just fine. So anyway, after all the paint's on, I just wash it all. And once again, as a blind painter or visually impaired painter, I focus on just big blocks of things, right? So I might find a stone, like say this one here, right? You can feel the edges of it. There's an edge there, an edge there. You know, I can feel the edge there, right? And over here. And so I might just grab and, right, coat this whole stone and then sit it down and let it dry. And then that becomes one of my key colored stones, like, you know, this brown one up here, right? Okay. Once all of that's done and it's all painted, right, what do? Well, I break out a can of this stuff. This is just a basic, any quality will do. I like Rust-Oleum personally, but this isn't that. This is just what my craft store happened to have on sale. It is just a resin spray and sealer. Now, this is the high gloss, or clear high gloss, and people are always like, no, don't use the clear high gloss, it'll look wet. This has clear high gloss on it. To me, it looks fine, you know? And once again, sat on a table that far away, I think it looks fine. It's not particularly shiny. How about this ogre over here, right? Once again, it has clear high gloss on it. It looks fine, right? It looks fine for my purposes anyway. And just as, I guess, a quick look at the ogre if you want to see him. My girlfriend actually painted this one, which is why I wasn't showing him off. She did him in layers of brown and khaki and that kind of thing, and then it all kind of ran together once it hit the black wash. But I think she did a good job. That's how I do it. So hopefully that answered your question. If you want to see any more of my mini painting stuff or any more stuff like this, I'll break out my desk cam again. And that's it for today. Take it easy. I'll see you next week, where I don't know what we'll get up to. We'll figure it out.